Hello, and I'm Timothy Rundle-Spiers from Slipstream Creative Agency. We plan, produce, and promote content for online businesses. So today I'm joined with Karl. So, Karl, how are you doing today?
Hey Tim, it's really great to be with you today. Doing well. It's exciting times and lots on the go, so been nice and busy. So thanks for inviting me.
Cool. So let me just go back to my switch screen there. So, Karl, we're talking to people today about the animation we've been working on.
Yeah,
And as you know, we were talking last week with Ant Steele about taking the brief of the animation from the client and how we're putting that together into the storyboard and creating the animation. And of course, that's very much the part that you've been working on
yeah,
is the storyboarding, but also then creating the actual animation itself.
yeah.
So that's what we're going to get into
Sure.
today. So I hope it's useful and it's good information for everyone watching. But just to kick us off, Karl, tell us a little bit about yourself. So where are you from? I mean, obviously we can tell from your accent, but
Yeah, yeah,
tell us more.
yeah. I'm originally from South Africa. Um, I was actually born in Namibia, but then
Okay.
moved to South Africa. So I've lived there most of my life. From Johannesburg, South Africa, and then moved across to the UK a couple of months ago, and I've been here, working on animation and so on. So yeah, it's been a great journey to get here, and yeah, loving the country and loving everything about it.
Brilliant. And of course, I mean, I know, but animation isn't the only thing you do either, is it?
No, no. I'd actually, when I started off in the industry, I studied architecture. I don't think you even knew that. But
No,
I
that's good.
started off as an architect, and I qualified and I worked for a little while as an architect. And then my boss at the time had actually come to me to head up the animation studio to do 3D fly-throughs and so on within the company. And I ended up, heading up that studio doing the fly-throughs. And that's how I got into animation and working with graphics and that side of it. And that
Yeah.
then led on to like a lot of video production and editing and, a wide range of
Yeah.
other graphic skills. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
done
did.
quite a bit.
I did mean to ask you what you've been up to this weekend, since it's only Tuesday, but I kind of missed that bit. But what kind of hobbies and passions have you got?
So one of the hobbies that we do is some street art. So that's actually turned into something that we quite enjoy. Either doing it just for fun, or maybe sometimes you get commissions. So
Yeah.
doing that a little bit for some business and some as a hobby. What I've also done is I've got a hot rod that I built a number of years
Right.
ago. So I built that up from scratch, and then on weekends we kind of take that out and go for a ride around and do a bit of a breakfast run. But yeah, so
So
get out
have you got
computers.
that in your front room then?
No, that's good. That's good to stay in the garage. Otherwise,
All right.
the wife will be a bit upset. So.
Yeah. So you weren't working on it this weekend then?
No, not this weekend.
So it's back in South Africa, is it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, my weekend was a little bit different. I tried
Yeah,
to, one of my passions is motorbikes, and I tried
yeah,
to fit some handlebar risers on it just to give it a little bit more that
nice.
rock and roll. And
Yeah, that's great.
they didn't fit. The cables were too tight. So I was
Oh,
like, oh man.
I'll have to come and help you with that.
Yeah. Can you? Oh
Yeah,
yeah, maybe you can. Right, that's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
In fact, actually, I thought you've not seen my bike, have you?
No, not yet.
All right, check this out. So
Brilliant.
there you go. That's my bike.
Brilliant. Nice.
I've just fitted that screen on actually.
Oh, it looks great.
It's my little beast.
Yeah, I'm also into motorcycles, so yeah, I'm a big fan. So
Oh well, let's talk bikes later.
yeah.
My wife's like thinks I'm having a midlife crisis, but I told her it's a midlife celebration.
Yeah, I'll remember that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So the only other thing I did this weekend was bury a hamster.
Oh,
Wasn't the most so it wasn't the most exciting weekend for me. My handlebar
yeah.
risers didn't fit, and I had to bury a hamster.
Oh,
So,
shame.
but we did it properly.
Too extreme.
The girls made a little tombstone and
Oh, shame.
wrote on it, and
Oh, shame.
it was a sad moment.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So anyway, let's get into it.
Yeah,
So we had a sneak peek last week at the script and the storyboard. So Karl,
yeah,
let's just have a little chat about it. So if I just bring up here our script. So just tell me a little bit more about the script and how you gather information from it, what information you need on it, and how you translate that.
yeah. So I think what's really important with the script, is obviously always the timing. People always want to say a lot of information about their business and portray as much as they can. But what's really crucial is to try and get the most important information across clearly and concisely and within the right amount of timing. And you don't want to really waste time, delving on information that's not pertinent to the call to action. And what we do up front is to figure out, what is the need from this project? What kind of voice are they trying to create for the business, and how are they portraying themselves within this deliverable?
Yeah.
So this particular one is identifying the company and the software that they sell, that they own, and that's how letting clients know about the software and how it works. So it's really an introduction animation. So you've got to be quite clear and concise about how that works, and giving them the right kind of information.
Yeah. And I think it's important for people to know that are watching this that you don't have to necessarily nail it straight away, or if you put your best thoughts down, we'll help you refine that information. Because like you say, people are very passionate about what they do, or they should be, they need to be, that needs to come across. But it's very easy to put too much detail in. So and then we've only got very little brains, and we can only absorb so much information. So really, it's a lot about people have got to get the dream and just buy into the dream, I feel, rather than try to give them every little minuscule detail.
And I think what we try to do for our clients is to guide them in what the communication strategy should look like, and we're there to help them to identify the right wording to use and the right terminology, and so we also offer guidance with how the process should work. So.
And as you know, of course, on some projects, people don't have a refined script, or they need a script written for it, and so we can also help people with that as well. So wherever you're coming from, that's what we'll do. The closer you can get to this, the better. The more information we've got to work with, the better. And as you can see, we've got the time code stamps in here. What we think the voiceover, or what you think the voiceover script should be, and then we can start to look at the visuals that will go with that.
It was really great to have the script quite defined in what the voiceover is saying, and then what the the on-screen wording should be that really helps to help me create an idea of what the visual on the screen should look like. And then we also have quite a nice description and some comments around what the graphics should look like. So that really helps me to identify, come up with a storyboard, working out what the visual should look like, where the visual should sit. Should it be more simplistic? Should it be a bit more more involved? So judging from the script, you really do get a sense of where you should place the animation and the style of animation you should be using for this.
So and just for people to understand, we would have already had a briefing conversation with the client. Well, we would have received a brief and done an estimate and get an idea of the shape and size of the project. But we would have been through a briefing session prior to all of this. And once we've got this, of course, we'd be having another briefing session to tighten it all up, because what we do need is quite a clear script before we start building the animation. Because yes, it could be adapted, but then it can adjust, throw out the timing slightly. And so the closer we can get it, the better.
No, I agree. It's preferential to get the script as close to what we would like before we go into the production phase. So we try to work with the client so that we can really get to grips with who the company is and what they stand for. And it's not just about the project. Like, I think it's about what kind of relationship they have with their clients, and how would they like to portray themselves. So it's really understanding them as a client, and what kind of personality do they have, and then how do we translate that personality into the voice of the script and so on. So once we get that tied down and we can really define the script properly, then they're happy, we're happy, and then we can continue with the production.
Exactly. And I mean, even though you do the animations for Slipstream, of course, you've created hundreds of different animations. And I just wonder, how often do you find, when you have done your first round of the storyboard and you're discussing it with the client and getting client feedback, how often does the script change at that point?
I think that's why that's the reason for the storyboard process. I've found is that the storyboard helps them to identify what the visual is going to look like and relate it back to the script. So if you don't have a strong script and you don't have a strong storyboard up front, then generally I find that there are a number of changes that are made. But I think if you can work closely with the client and let them see the wording with the visual, I think it really helps them to identify with what the end result's going to look like without there being too much time spent in the majority of the process. So I think it's important to work closely with the client, but changing, I suppose it depends on then the kind of client you have, I suppose, as well. But we like to work closely together with the client to ensure that there aren't a lot of changes down the road. So
I'm guessing sometimes you're building out that storyboard though, and it can highlight some bits in the script that are a little bit clunky. Can question, well, is that the best way of wording something? And but that's the time to look at that, make changes before you start recording your voiceover anyway, isn't it?
I think that allows the client, what it allows me as an animator to also go, well, I don't really think that what you're trying to say here is fitting in with the end result that you're looking for. So we do like to advise the client through the process to go, based on the wording that we received or that we've created, on the brief that we've received, we think that the visual and the wording would maybe align better if we did it like this. So it gives us a chance to respond and to work closely with you from a creative perspective to advise the client on where they should be.
Yeah, exactly. So for the purpose of this show, we've taken a specific project, so it gives us something to talk around to help people understand it. So that's the script we've shown you just now is for this specific project. And then we can now look at the first round of storyboard that you've created, Karl. So I'll just bring that up. Tell us your thinking here then, Karl.
So yeah, I mean, I'm still quite old school when it comes to doing the storyboards. So I do enjoy going back to pencil and paper and sort of sketching everything out before I get to this phase. So I think it's important just to really understand what you're trying to portray. Yeah. But I like doing the storyboard then more in a formal. So after I've done the drawing phase and I just really clarify the process that I'm looking for, I then go into designing what I think each of the frames should look like, and just setting up each of the scenes with the actual graphics that we envisage for the final product. So what you see on the screen now is really, you know, a final representation of what the graphics would look like in the animation. And then I like putting the wording and the description with some notes around what my thoughts are around what that particular scene, how it will engage, how it will animate, you know, what will be happening on screen within that time frame, and then the client can really get a good idea of what, you know, what the visual is going to look like without it going all the way to the extent of being an animated product so far. But at this phase, I think it gave them a really good idea of what they can expect, and we really wanted to give them like a very high-tech feel, very thought leader in the industry feel. We want them to, you know, we really want them to stand above the rest of the crowd. So we went very much for a very, you know, top end look and feel to the graphics. And so I think this is the first phase that we did with them, and, you know, gave them a good idea of where, you know, what they like and what they don't like, and you know, they gave us some feedback on what they didn't like from here.
And just for clarity, we'd already confirmed whether it was going to be a 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, whether it had people, characters, this kind of thing. We already had obviously got that information from them, because there's many different ways of doing animations. So yeah, absolutely. And of course, it's the other bit one has to get across to a client as well, as these are obviously still frames and they're just a snapshot of the main elements being used, which will of course one blends into the other. Because there's hundreds of frames in between all of this.
I think it's important, you know, just going back to what you said, working out the style for the animation is obviously discussed with the client up front. So, you know, there's many different styles. You can either do 3D, 2D. For this particular one, we decided to go more the explainer video route and kind of go the infographic explainer video, and we felt that would engage with the audience better. So that's the reason why we decided to go for this.
Exactly. So let's just look at a couple of other slides of this. You know, so maybe if I just go back, you know, just very briefly, you know, we look at these slides, just quickly talk through each slide. What would we visually expect to be happening in each frame, just very quickly?
Sure. So obviously the logo is Accounts IQ, and the idea was that they're a software business and that they are a very smart accounting software package. And the idea was around creating some coding that would then come in to the first frame with the logo sort of animating onto the screen, and then you know, as the letters sort of fly off the cue, it then rotates to like a full screen and then turn into the globe. And the voiceover talks around how they have many different customers and how those customers are, you know, around the globe. And we brought that in sort of through the animation of the globe. And, you know, so each phase transitions from one to the next. You've got the cue that then sort of morphs into the globe, and then the globe then goes down and goes through the graph on the third slide, and then how the graphs come up, and it just explains how all the information that you have in an accounting type of business would then be filtered into a single view for, you know, with a dashboard, you know, via their software. So it's just really taking them through what that process looks like and how the information is then consolidated and, you know, supported with a nice visual effect to help identify that.
Yeah, nice. And as we go into each slide, all these elements will blend through into the next slide, and it's constantly moving
Yeah,
and developing and growing, isn't it? As we
yeah,
go through it. Yeah, ideal. And then of course we shared this with the client. We talked it through. There were different things they highlighted. Um, different elements they weren't so keen on, different elements they wanted to add. There were things we raised up as well, weren't there,
yeah,
Karl, actually, where we're like, you know, does this really say what you want it to say, for
yeah,
the client? So actually, there were some areas that were trying to go down a certain path, which we sort of redirected them a little bit
yeah,
to make sure it's really on message.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's important for them, sometimes you could be quite close to your own business and you don't, it's good to maybe get a perspective of what your client base would be thinking when they see the information. So it's good to, highlight what we see from a research point of view, what
Yeah,
would work and what wouldn't work. So maybe
yeah,
they didn't see it a certain kind of way, but once we explained it to them, they had a better idea of,
yeah,
the concept that we had in mind.
yeah.
And then they obviously had a couple of changes as well. So, we adapt and we change as their requirements are
Yeah.
needed, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, briefly, we can have a quick look at sort of how that did change. So, as you can see, that's sort of starting to look a little bit different there.
Yeah. Yeah. So we decided that we needed to simplify it down a little bit, just make it a bit more clear and concise. Also, we wanted to bring through more of the Accounts IQ brand colors. So we just reshaped things to be more in line with
Yeah.
brand identity.
But interestingly, on that note, though, we had used brand colors, but they wanted to highlight different colors
Yeah.
than the ones we had. So we had the right color palette because
Yeah.
obviously using those brand guidelines.
That's it. Yeah.
But they wanted to pull out some of the lighter, softer tones, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think they felt that they needed the blues and so on to come through a little bit more, but still part of the color palette, and we just had to reshape it to suit what they wanted. So
yeah, exactly. So yes, as you can see, it's sort of slightly changed. And actually, looking at this, we even discussed and made slightly other changes, didn't we?
yeah.
It's all coming back to me now.
It's a process, and I think what's
Yeah.
good for people to understand, especially when you're working on a project like this, is this enables you to make those changes before we get into the heavy animation parts. So it's great to have this as a platform to bounce the ideas backwards and forwards, and to get to make the changes that are required, and to also get the client to be happy with the end results. So this is a great way to do that without spending too much time and effort. Before you go into the animation, which obviously starts incurring animation costs and a waste of time. So we don't want that.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. I can see on our screen there, collaborate 24/7. They were wanting a beach scene, which we're like, that's not going to work.
No. We sort of advised, most people, when they're still working, are probably in some sort of cafe or having a good coffee. So that's just a nice opportunity to just advise the client on, what would maybe make their brand, make their brand stand out in a better way, instead of looking like you sitting on the beach and relaxing. All got a business focus. So it's just an example of something we had to advise on.
Exactly.
Good.
Okay. And then a couple more slides there. So, our next stage really, I think, was obviously you can then from the feedback from this start putting together, start building out all the different elements and the animation itself, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah, so the way I've designed the screen, the storyboards, I've done the screens as separate layouts. So I generally take the actual artwork that I've put into the storyboard, and then I start breaking that up into separate artboards, where I then have each one of those layers is then separated, so I can work with that within the software that I use. So it's quite a laborious process, but it's far easier to do it this way, because the visual that the client is signing off is going to end up being the visual that they're getting in the animation. So this I generally do as a vector format in Illustrator, and then I pull each of the scenes into their own scene, and I build layers, like that there where it says unlock potential. I mean, I probably have about 50 layers in that piece of artwork alone. And then that takes some time to separate the layers and to build up, like the character you can see is standing there on his own. So that's like, probably 20 layers on his own. So you can make him move and animate him as little individual pieces. So it takes a while to then break everything up into different layers. And then I import that into the software program. And then from there, you can start animating each scene. So it's a nice way to do it this way, so that at least, it does cut down on the long-term laborious process of trying to design something. So at least now you've got pretty much a close to what you want as
close representation.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, because I think any animators watching this, or people that are learning or want to be animators, I think it's really nice for them to really understand your process, because a lot of animators will work in different ways, and for clients to actually understand what does go into it as well.
Absolutely, and it is animation. Is a very an intense process, and it is quite time consuming. So there's a lot of late nights and a lot of time spent. So
a lot of coffee.
Hey, lots of coffee. Yeah, lots of coffee. But if you are an animator that's out there, practice makes perfect, like they say. So you got to keep on, it's like years of experience, and, probably making a couple of mistakes along the way and learning from the mistakes, and then refining your process, as you need to. So, it helps you to get to a point where you can kind of build a bit of a system that works for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So really one other question I was going to ask you, might be interesting for people, what software you build your animation in?
So, like the storyboard, like I said, I did in Adobe Illustrator, and then I take that and I build separate artboards for each of the scenes, and then I use another software program called Adobe After Effects, and that's kind of an industry standard software, and I pull all of the artboards as separate scenes within the Adobe After Effects, and then I build the layers and do comps and pre-comps within the Adobe After Effects software, and then start animating. Once I've kind of laid out everything as a static format, I then start going to each scene and then editing each scene within the software. And then sometimes you may need to use Photoshop as well, just depending on what kind of project you're working on.
Yeah. What do you animate with the final animation? What's do you use for that?
So the After Effects is the animating software, and then from that you would then you kind of render the artwork. You render the frames out that you built up, and the scenes you render from the After Effects into an API or a some sort of file that we can share with you, depending on what execution they need. Do they want it for online, or do they need it for TV? Whatever the execution requires.
Yeah, exactly.
So the animation software is the Adobe After Effects.
So you don't bring it in afterwards into Premiere or anything like that?
I would use Premiere. So once I probably compile the audio and the music into Adobe Premiere. So I'd render out the frames from After Effects and then bring that into Premiere afterwards to then, line. But for this particular project, I did actually bring the audio into After Effects so I can work the timing out according to the voice with the scenes. So I
Right, okay.
brought the audio in there, and then I rendered that out as a package, and then pull that into probably After Effects. Into Adobe Premiere, and then align the audio with the music we want to use with the voice. And
yeah. You can see I was trying to lead the witness there. Lead the witness. So okay. On that note, then the next stage obviously was to get the voiceover.
Yeah.
So obviously we had a brief for the right tone and the right demographic of the voiceover. And typically we, and this is what we do, is we gave a selection of voices we thought would work really well for the client to choose from. Along with our sort of strongest recommendation, which indeed was the one she went with. I was so happy with his voiceover. We didn't ask for any changes on this one, and the client was really super happy as well.
Well, I think that's important to work. Obviously everybody is very professional with what they do, but it's good that you have build a rapport and a relationship with a number of people, and you kind of know what they can deliver. And it's good to be able to really choose the voice that would work best for your client, and then obviously the process is a lot smoother at the end of the day. So it's nice when it works out that way.
Yeah, exactly. And then likewise, we've done the same with the music. We've actually sourced the music we thought would work well with it, and then gave a choice to the client, and they've made their choice. In fact, they've said they were they liked all of them, didn't they? But they've made a choice. People can just give us the soundtrack that they want us to work with, which is fine, or we can take the lead on that. And then it's just down to you to put that together in the timing.
The voiceover is quite crucial for that. So like this one, we envisaged the timeline to about 1 minute 30, and it's actually worked out to about 1 minute 55. But it all depends on what the voice and the rate of the voice and so on. So it's worked out slightly longer, but I think the pace of it has worked out quite well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, good. So we're still finalizing the animation, and yet to have that signed off by the client. But we can quite possibly next week we'll be able to show you guys what the final result looks like. We do have a snippet which is just a mock-up with the voiceover on it and the music choice. So I can play that and you can see how that went.
Yeah.
I'm going to move that. Here we go.
Accounts IQ is the future of accounting for SMEs and fast-growing businesses. It's a constantly updated, secure cloud platform used by thousands of companies worldwide. We are here to help you transform your finance function. Accounts IQ will help you identify risks and opportunities and give you crucial insights to make smarter decisions.
Cool. So there you go. Now you could probably hear in the audio there someone speaking over it slightly. That's because it's not the final music version. But there you can see the beginnings of the animation. There's still some refinements to be done on that. And we've got the voiceover in place, the music that the client has chosen. So still some refinements to be done, but that's kind of, as you can see, how it's going to start to roll out.
Quite far in the process of the animation, so looking forward to showing everyone what the end result's going to look like.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, Karl, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been it's really insightful. I really hope that you guys out there, the audience, have learned something from this, have gained something from it, whether you're thinking about doing an animation or you're a want-to-be animator yourselves. I hope you've learned something. And if you need any more help, you want to know more, just reach out to us, and happy to have a chat anytime. So, Karl, thanks very much. And
Thank
we
you.
look forward to seeing all of you guys next week. So there's signing out from me and signing out from Karl. Cheers.
Cheers.